He, who created heaven and earth, out of his power and might.
The poet's art, was from the start, a branch of wisdom's mighty tree. The task of poetry is holy, as all godly men agree.
I, Rustaveli, wrote this poem, a man whom fate would not release. Out of a tale, I made a poem, a sparkling diamond centerpiece. An ancient Persian tale I took, and in the Georgian tongue retold. Until that time, it was an unset pearl, from hand to hand it rolled.
A lake of ebony I used as ink, my reed was like a dart. Whoever hears the lines I have written, a spear will pierce his heart.
Shota Rustaveli. The knight in the panther's skin. The king of the Arabs sees the knight in the panther's skin. A warrior sat, weeping on the bank of the stream, a strange knight. Holding his black horse by the reins, he looked strong and ready to fight. His pearl-studded armor, saddle, and bridle, were all glossy white. His ruddy cheeks were wet with tears, they had never seen such a sight.
He wore wrapped around his body, a luxurious panther skin. And, on his head he wore a panther cap, to a helmet akin. In his hand was a whip, thicker than a man's arm has ever been. The way he looked, made them like to look, though looking made their heads spin.
The king said, "That man appears to be a stranger by looks and dress." He ordered a servant, "Hurry to him and make him acquiesce. Convey this message from me, you're not one of my soldiers, I guess, whoever you are, approach. I demand that courtesy, no less."
He sent a slave to speak to the knight, whose heart was stricken with woe. Who, with downcast head was weeping, and it was clearly not for show. From the jets of his eyelashes, clear waters could be seen to flow. The slave approached, but could not speak, to a knight who was weeping so.
The slave dared not address him, and was unsure whether he should stay. A sudden loss of courage, caused him for a long time to delay. Then he said, "The king commands your presence. You must not say him nay." The knight wept on, as though he had not heard what the slave had to say.
The woe-stricken knight did not hear a word said by the timid slave. He was oblivious to the shouts the surrounding soldiers gave. He was moaning strangely, his heart was in flames, he started to rave. Tears mingled with blood, and flowed forth, as from floodgates wave after wave.
The knight's mind seemed to have flown away, so deeply was he in thought. To deliver the message, the persistent slave once again sought. The weeping stranger heard nothing, he was so terribly distraught. Those rose-petal lips did not open, as politeness would have taught.
Since the knight did not say anything, the slave to the king returned. He told Rustaveli, "He wants nothing from you, this much I have learned." My heart was troubled, when I saw the way his warrior eyes burned. But he said nothing, all my advances on your behalf he spurned.
The king was astounded, the strange knight had angered him to the core. He sent to confront the knight, the 12 slaves, he commanded before. He commanded, "Go to that strange knight. Take with you weapons of war, go and bring hither the weeping lion, who refuses to roar."
The slaves went forth in clattering armor, to the knight, they drew near. At this, the weeping knight started up, and looked around without fear. He saw the slave warriors coming, each with a bow or a spear. He said aloud only, "Woe is me, that I should find myself here."
Then, he passed both his hands over his eyes, and did not further cry. He made fast his saber and his quiver. His eyes, they saw, were dry. He mounted. The slaves knew, it was their last chance to stop him or try. He was about to wend his way onward, and not even say why.
The 12 slaves then sought to pull that knight down from his ebony steed. He fell on them, even their foes would have pitied their plight, indeed. He beat one against another, some he slew, did not even bleed. Some he smote with his whip, cleaved them to the breastbone with lightning speed.
The king was furious, he called upon his soldiers to give chase. till his pursuers caught up to him. The knight did not turn his face, but everyone who overtook him, he left for dead in that place. He threw down man after man. Rustaveli lamented the disgrace.
The king and Avtandile pursued the knight, meaning to make him yield. Proud and haughty, the strange knight kept on galloping across the field. His horse seemed to fly. His pursuers pursued, till their senses reeled. The knight looked back just once, and must have seen King Rustaveli revealed.
When he saw the king, he struck his horse. What came next was strange but true. In the blink of an eye, he had vanished, he disappeared from view. He could have sunk in an abyss, or flown to heaven's gate and through. They sought, but found no trace of his course. There was nothing they could do.
His hoof prints they sought in the soil, and marveled that they could find none. Leaving no trace, he had vanished, like many a Devi has done. The soldiers mourned their dead, and bandaged all their wounded, every one. The king said, I have seen cause for grief, my joy has set like the sun.
He said, God wearies of the happiness that hitherto was mine, therefore has he turned my sweet drink into the bitterest of wine. He has deeply wounded me, as I draw near my life's finish line. I bow and say to him, all grace, and all will and desire, are thine.
Thus he spoke and turned away, leaving the rest saddened by his tone. No one galloped gaily across the field, groan was mingled with groan. The hunting party dispersed at that, everyone went off alone. Some thought him right, others, God forgive them, thought weakness had been shown. The king went into his bedchamber, sad, and frowning, feeling ill.
None followed, except the one, like his own son, namely Avtandile. Everyone went his own way, the household dispersed, as households will. All merriment ceased, as did the lute, even the sweet harp was still.
News had come to Tanaden, of how her sad father retreated. She rose and came to the door, she with whom the bright sun competed. She asked the chamberlain, is he asleep, or awake and seated? He answered, his color has faded, he sits brooding, defeated.
Avtandile is with him, sitting in front of him in a low chair. The strange knight they pursued today, this is the cause of all his care. Tanaden said, now is not a good time, for me to go in there. If he asks, say, she was here a moment ago, but went somewhere.
Time passed, and the king inquired, where is my daughter Tanaden? Where is my solace and jewel, my life's source, my help through thick and thin? The chamberlain said, she was here, face paler than it's ever been. She learned of your sadness and turned back, unsure whether to go in.
Go, call her, how can I bear to be absent from her, the king said. Say to her, why did you turn back, leaving the king as if for dead? Come back, drive off grief, heal his heart. You are the bread on which he's fed. Come back, and your father will tell you, the reason his joy has fled.
Tanaden did, as her father wished, she rose and came right away. Her face shone like a high-riding moon, when night has vanquished the day. Her father sat her down and kissed her, then said what he had to say. Daughter, why did you not come here before? Why did you stay away?
The maiden said, O Father King, seeing you frown, who dares ask why? Few dare to approach you, when you are sad, even those far from shy. This sadness of yours casts shadows on the highest stars in the sky. A man, I think, should seek to solve problems, not sit alone and cry.
The sight of you brings me joy, and being near you brings me relief. He answered. My child, however, much this sad affair brings me grief. You calm that grief like a balm, I'm no longer shaking like a leaf. After what's happened, my groans are justified, that's my firm belief.
A matter of some hours ago, I saw a magnificent night, the firmament, the bounds of the earth, he illumined with his light. I could not find out, for whom he wept, nor the nature of his plight. I summoned him. He didn't come. I was angry when he took flight.
When he saw me, he wiped the tears from his eyes, and rode away fast. When I ordered him seized, he destroyed all my men, down to the last. He saluted me, like some spirit, on whom evil has been cast. Even now I don't know, was he real, this man who left us aghast?
Did I see him, or was he part of a dream? I really don't know. He killed every slave and soldier, I sent for him, he made blood flow. He had to have been flesh, but if he was flesh, then where did he go? I was happy till now, by God's grace, now he sees me as a foe.
God's tender mercies, at length, have become to me like so much gall. I have forgotten the past, when joy was great and sorrow was small. Words intended to console me, will only make my spirits fall. However long my days may be, I'll not again rejoice at all.
Let me offer my humble words, his daughter Tanatin replied, I think, to rail like this against God or fate, is a sign of pride. Why accuse of bitterness, he who for us will always provide? And why would, he who created good, create evil by its side?
This is my advice to you, you are a ruler, you are a king. Wide is the realm, within which you have power over everything. Send out men, to learn about this night, and their tidings to you bring. To learn, if this man be mortal, bid your scouts to their horses spring.
Rustaveli liked what Tanatin had said, and he found her words wise. He put his hand on her cheek. Again and again, he kissed his prize. Then he said, I shall follow your words, daughter, do as you advise. All is, as God wills it, my Savior out of earth has made me rise.
Men were summoned, and sent forth, to the far corners of field and plain. The king commanded them to seek the knight, and spare themselves no pain. Search for him, he said. Let nothing hinder you, or make you refrain. Send letters, where you cannot go, and pray, your search may not be vain.
The men did as he bid, about a year, they looked as best they might. They sought him again and again, they looked everywhere for that night. None of God's creatures had seen him, he seemed to have vanished from sight. Then, weary to the bone, they came home, failure on them like a blight.
The slaves said, King, we have wandered hither, and yon over your land. There is no part, of our part of the world, one of us has not scanned. No one admitted, seeing this night, when we made of them demand. We return joyless, knowing this was not the conclusion you planned.
My daughter Tanatin told me the truth, they heard the king respond. A devil has played one of his tricks, of which devils are so fond. This night, has been sent here as my foe, he has flown down from beyond. Henceforth, I'll let go of grief, and thus slip free of his cursed bond.
Thus he spoke, and all rejoiced, to have their king feel once again free. After the best musicians, entertained with song and minstrelsy, the king gave gifts to everyone, as generous as he could be. Among all the living, nobody could be more giving than he.
He, who created heaven and earth, out of his power and might.
The poet's art, was from the start, a branch of wisdom's mighty tree. The task of poetry is holy, as all godly men agree.
I, Rustaveli, wrote this poem, a man whom fate would not release. Out of a tale, I made a poem, a sparkling diamond centerpiece. An ancient Persian tale I took, and in the Georgian tongue retold. Until that time, it was an unset pearl, from hand to hand it rolled.
A lake of ebony I used as ink, my reed was like a dart. Whoever hears, the lines I have written, a spear will pierce his heart.
Shota Rustaveli. The Knight in the Panther's Skin.